What's up and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tuesday Tips and Tricks. I'm your host, Max at WeVideo, and as always, we have another great episode lined up for you guys today. This is episode number 49. That's right, 49. And today we're going to be going over something that I'm sure most people have done in WeVideo from time to time. We're going to be going over kind of interviews and how to edit out the filler words, the uhs, the ums, the likes, words that kind of use without really realizing it to fill space while we go from topic to topic. I, for one, am a huge culprit of this, and we're going to show you the different ways that you can go about removing them and kind of see what fits best for you. Before we get started, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, as well as hit the bell in the top right corner, so you get an update with every new episode. We also have our Tuesday Tips and Tricks landing page. This is where you can go back and look at any of our previous episodes, as well as subscribe to receive email notifications each week with each upcoming episode. And with that, let's bring on our co-host, Tyler Wall.
What is up, Max? What's up, viewers? Happy Tuesday once again. We're ready for a great new episode. And it's episode 49. We got big things coming around the corner, so stay tuned for some updates for next week as well. But yeah, we should hop right into the editor. We got a lot to go over today. It's the interview.
Yeah. So we just pulled up an interview that we've done in the past. This one was with Karen Carr, which was 3 episodes ago at this point. Yep. And we're pulling it up just to have something to work on. Gosh, I'm just counting how many times I say or now. It's going to be an eye-opening experience to hear how often I say this, something I'm trying to improve on.
Yeah, so one of the things that we do as editors quite often is take a big, long clip like this, an interview or, a presentation, something along those lines, and trim it down, right? So we've got this big slab of marble, and we're going to try and sculpt it down into something usable. So let's go ahead and just play this clip. We'll find a couple filler words that we can remove, show you guys sort of the best practices of using a big clip like this, and then go from there. Cool.
A little bit about yourself. What's your background? How did you get into real estate? And how did you get into becoming a YouTube influencer?
It's still so funny that you say I'm a YouTube influencer, but I guess it's true at this point.
All right, so we heard a couple uhs there.
I counted 2.
Yeah, we can go through and start cutting those out. First, let's take a look at this clip as a whole, though. So one of the best practices to do when we're looking at a large clip like this is to make a lot of our changes that we want to do globally to the clip first. That way, when we go back and cut things up, it's going to have all those attributes already on it, and it's going to save you some time. So I'll explain a little bit further with visuals here. So for example, if we wanted to make some color correction changes to this clip, now would be a great time to do it when we have it first imported into our timeline. So I can change the contrast, saturation, hue, temperature, tint, depending on your clip, obviously. We'll save those changes. Also, if we wanted to make, real quick, if we wanted to make changes to our framing, so scaling, or, there's something that we knew we had to crop out on this clip as a whole, this would be the time to do it. So I'm going to save those changes. Now, when I go in and start cutting this clip, that color correction is going to be applied to both clips that we cut. So again, this is going to save some time. If we were to go cut this clip up into hundreds of different sections, it's going to be a lot harder to apply the color correction and keep it the same across all those clips later.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, this just saves steps in the long run.
Yeah.
Make all your changes now. That way you don't have to do it individually to each cut up clip later.
Correct. All right, let's start cutting out some of these filler words. So
There's
I've got,
one.
yeah, there's one. I've got my waveform down here. You can find that on your clips by clicking on this audio tab on your clip, and then it will bring that up. So, boom. All right, so if I click S on my keyboard when I have this clip selected, that's going to create a split, or I could hit this scissor icon. And then if I hit I on my keyboard, that's going to bring this clip to the end point of my playhead. And we've cut that out. So we could drag this clip over to fill that gap. I can also select both these clips, right click on my mouse and close the gaps. That's another way.
Into becoming a YouTube influencer. Yeah, so that's option one, to cut the video and audio entirely and then just bring the two together, creating basically a jump cut of sorts.
Yeah, and a little bit later we'll go over how to make these look a little smoother with some scale in or covering it with B-roll.
YouTube influencer.
Let's just keep going down with our edits for now, though.
It's so funny that you say I'm a YouTube influencer, but I guess it's true at this point.
There's
right.
one.
There's one. If you use the arrow keys on your keyboard, that can go a single frame forward. That's going to help a lot with these types of edits where we're doing precision. So another way we can go about taking out some of these words is by just dropping the audio. So when I click on this volume line, it will create a keyframe, and I can actually just bring the audio down where she's saying If you hold shift and press plus, that's going to zoom in, help this see a little easier. And we'll just bring this down. Oop. Be sure you're clicking on the dot.
In 2000, at this point.
So this can be especially useful in situations like this where her words are kind of bleeding into one another. She says, at this point, you know.
In 2000.
Yeah, so this is one of, I guess, a couple ways to do this. The advantage of doing it this way with the keyframes is that you're keeping the whole clip together.
Yep.
Alternatively, what you could do is really focus in on that specific audio clip and cut right when it happens, right before it happens, right after it happens, and then just mute that small little clip that you just cut.
Yeah, that's a good call. So we could go ahead and, like we did with that previous that Max said, cut this. Don't even worry about the keyframes. You can just go in and drop the audio of this clip completely. So pull this guy down, and then our audio is just completely muted. So you might be thinking, I can kind of hear actually where that audio drops out. This is going to happen if you bring your audio all the way down. Our ears are going to notice that lack of sound, even if it's just that kind of hum of the room that we were recording in. So a good way to cover this up is to actually put some music underneath, and then these are going to become less obvious when she's cutting out that audio, right?
Yeah,
so that's a good way to fix that problem.
Let's actually drag some music onto here, Tyler, because I think a question our viewers might have is, what's a good audio level for background music? Yeah. Obviously, you don't want to have it at 100%, but is there a range, I guess, that you pick generally?
So you just really want to be keeping in mind the most important thing on your screen of, if it's an interview, you really want to be hearing the people more than the audio. If the people aren't talking, or it's a moment where animations are happening, that's when you would bring up the levels of your music or your sound effects. So you really just want to be, as an editor, looking for the moments that are important in your clips. So for this, I would say let's bring our audio down quite a bit. We were going to want it probably like 20-30% at the most. And that's just going to be this music bed that's there. It's keeping the conversation flowing, but it's not overwhelming. So even that sounds a little bit too loud. I'm going to bring it down to like 13.
I'm a YouTube influencer, but I guess it's true at this point. In 2005.
Oh, so our is way over here, actually. Let's just adjust these points.
And then, as a quick reminder, how do you go about removing a keyframe after you've added one?
Yeah, that's very easy to do. You just double click on one of those dots and it will delete it.
And then you add them just by clicking.
Just by clicking, and then you can just simply drag like that.
Oh, yes. We just had a comment from Albert. He says he finds 20 to 25% good for prayer. That's in terms of his audio level for the background music.
Yeah, great. I think that's a safe area, is to keep it nice and low, around 20. It's usually going to be good. But again, just pay attention as you're editing to what you can actually hear and what is too overwhelming for music.
It's true at this point.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind is if you edit with headphones and your final video is going to be played through speakers or obviously without headphones, keep that in mind, because oftentimes headphones makes the sound of the person speaking a little easier to hear. So you might end up having your background music a little too high once it's projected from a TV or other speakers.
There you go.
All right.
So we did a pretty good job here. You can't hear that. It just looks like she's thinking, maybe pausing, and
I guess it's true at this point. 2005, my husband and I were living in Salt Lakes.
Yeah, that works.
So that works pretty well with our music. Let's see. Now I'm saying I'm catching myself as we.
I'm catching it too.
A good thing to bring up too is this is more for situations where you're creating a very precise video and you need to take out as much dead space as you can. So these filler type words are really, unnecessary for those types of things. But when you're doing a very long interview, it's going to be natural for people to have filler words in there. And I think we just typically will accept that as natural conversation, right? So
yeah,
you might not necessarily need to take out every single and ah during longer clips, but this is just showing you some of the best practices for when you do need to.
Yeah, this can be a very slippery slope in terms of just edit time. You can get super caught up in this, and it could just be a 5-minute, 20-minute clip, and you can spend hours getting really into the nitty gritty and fine tuning it, and cutting every filler word and so on.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Try and catch yourself before you get too carried away, kind of chasing perfection there.
Right.
It also, especially if you're working with other clients, it can almost be helpful for them to hear the full uncut video and kind of comprehend, oh, wow, I use the word like a lot, or I need to stop saying or So it can almost be helpful, especially if it's easier just to do a second take as opposed to trying to cut out every single one.
True.
So we're just going to give a bunch of different ideas here in terms of what you can do, and some are more appropriate for others.
Yeah, don't stress out and think, oh, I need to go back and change every one of my videos with ums now. It's more, situational.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and look at these clips now. You can see the gap.
And how did you get into becoming a YouTube influencer?
That we filled created that jump cut. So there's a couple ways we could cover that up. Once you go in and cut some of these ums and ahs out, you could do a scale in. This is a popular cut that we see in a lot of vlogging type of videos.
Did you get into real estate, and how did you get into becoming a YouTube influencer?
Nice little scale in cut, or we could cover this with B-roll, right? Great way to do that is our stock media library.
Yeah, so if it's very clear that there's an or a like that you can't hear and it's been cut out, an easy way to fix that is to just cover the visual.
Yeah, so this might not be the best place to put B-roll, but let's say Karen and Max were talking about real estate and we had to cover up a section of that. That would be a great time to fill in a clip like this, and that will cover up our edits.
You get into real estate, and how did you get into becoming a YouTube influencer?
So that's another option.
Yeah, those are all ideas.
Great. So we could go over this further down the line, but I think that's the general idea of how to cut some of these things out. We've pretty much covered our bases. Was there anything else we wanted to touch on, Max?
I think that's it. And just to recap, we kind of threw out probably 4 or 5 different ways there to cover that up. So option 1 is cut the or filler word entirely. Option 2 is just cut the audio, keep the video. And there's 2 different ways you can do that. You can segment it out and just cut and then mute it, or you could use the keyframes and lower it right when you use the filler word and then go back to the original volume right after you say it. Then there is kind of option 3, and that is to make that awkwardness a little easier by scaling in or doing something to the visual portion of it. Or you can throw in some B-roll and just cover up the visual component entirely.
Yep.
And then lastly, putting a little background music makes the whole thing kind of just sound a little more polished and run a little smoother.
Yeah, it's going to hide some of those blemishes that we have in the audio, especially if you're dipping down nice and low with some of these clips.
Yeah. And then as Albert just pointed out too, if you're going to kind of create something like this or something similar to our Tuesday tips where you have the intro and outro music, have that music start at a certain level. I think we have ours at around 60 or so, and then dip down for when the actual speaking begins.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the outro, ramp it back up again.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Always good to bring your music back up when people aren't talking, and it just brings a little bit more energy and life into your clips.
Yeah.
Especially
and then in tandem, kind of with the fading audio, you can also do a fade in visual. You can do that. Maybe we should show that too. How to do a fade either with a transition or just by doing the opacity keyframes.
Yeah, so let's say we wanted to so doing fades is pretty easy. Click on your clip, find the opacity icon, and then we can do a opacity fade using that same technique we used with our audio. So it's just creating little keyframes and then selecting where we want the fade to happen. You could do the same thing with this clip, have it fade in, and then we've got sort of a custom transition happening. So you could have these fades line up. You can see it's ramping down and ramping in.
Just thought it was branding.
Yeah, those are very cool because you can kind of see the layers as you're doing it. So we did just have a question come in, Tyler. This is from Albert. How do you add transitions? Sometimes it works with the right tap. Sometimes I have to force it in. Am I missing something?
Yeah, so transitions are pretty easy to use. You're just going to go to your transitions tab. I could zoom in a little bit. That is up here. And then we have this library of transitions. You can drag it onto the end of a clip, and then you can make your adjustments by clicking on the transition, or sometimes let me see if I can find your question here. Be sure we're answering this correctly. Yeah, sometimes we do run into problems with transitions, especially on smaller clips. So because a crossfade is using, seconds of the end of this clip and seconds of the beginning of this clip, depending on how long, like for this one, it's 1 second of each of those clips. If you have a 2-second clip or a 1-second clip, it's not going to have enough space to create that transition, and that's going to sort of make problems for you.
Branding.
Yeah.
Same if we were to break that transition by pulling it away from this and then bring it back. That's also going to
It's branding.
create that dip to black, and that's not what we wanted, right? So just keep that in mind when you're pulling these in.
I just thought it was branding.
Yep.
Yeah, so kind of to reiterate, we have done a really old Tuesday tips on this when it comes to transitions. You can't put a 1-second transition on a clip that is less than 1 second.
Yeah.
So what you can do, alternatively, is apply a half-second transition to something that's a second. But basically, the transition needs to take less time than the clip itself. So I think what he might be asking is, how do you do something like that? And I believe if you right-click a clip, or if you go into the effects, you can add a transition or a fade that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another way to do it.
Yeah, so was that right-clicking, or?
Yeah, you right-click the clip, and you can add a transition.
Yeah.
So he was saying he's having some problems with that, looks like.
Yeah, saying sometimes it works with the right tap, sometimes he has to force it in, which I think he means dragging. So you make sure when you do the right tap that you're clicking over your clip. If you're not on the clip itself, then that menu won't pop up. And I think you have to have that clip selected too.
Yeah, so I'm selecting the clip, right-clicking it, add transition, and that's going to apply it right here. I don't know if we could recreate your problem. It could be...
If I had to guess, I think it just, there might be instances where the clip's not selected or the mouse pointer is not actually over the clip.
That could be too, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, looks like that was it.
Yeah, hopefully that helped, Albert. If you can recreate that problem, and screen record it or something along those lines, that'd be helpful for us. We could help you a little bit more with that.
Happy to look into that more.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it for the kind of cutting out filler words portion of today's episode. We do have a featured video of the week. This video I was particularly fond of. It was shared in our Facebook business community. And I think the reason I like it so much is because it uses so many different features that we've covered specifically on Tuesday Tips.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and play that for you now. So right off the bat, you can see she's clearly learned how to do cloning by using the cropping feature. I love this portion of it. Yeah.
Got a late attendee there.
Yeah.
A lot of musical talent from our viewers, I gotta say.
Yeah. So another thing that can make doing a video like this a lot easier, especially with the timing, is if you can kind of notice from time to time, she is listening to the song or the video as it plays to give her an idea of where she is and how much time she has left. So you can see her AirPods and her ears right there.
Yeah, great job syncing all this up. She's got her logo up in the left corner. Great. You can see it very easily.
Yeah, and you can see a bit of the kind of cropping line, both the left and the right-hand side, and I think that has to do with time of day and the fact that that's closer to the windows,
Yep.
whereas the middle portion is completely seamless. It's cat detail.
A lot of great techniques. It's good to see the creativity from our community.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. Well, cool. I don't think we need to finish this whole thing, but yeah, thank you. This is Dorian. It's a great clip. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if there's no more questions coming in, that brings us to our last bit of announcement for the day. So today, as I mentioned earlier, is episode 49, which means that next week is episode 50, Tuesday Tips and Tricks, which is just awesome. We've been doing this for 50 episodes now. So in honor of doing 50 episodes, we are celebrating by giving away a 1-year subscription to the WeVideo business plan, which is the highest, most expensive plan. I don't, off the top of my head, know how much that would cost to pay for an annual subscription, but
it's a good prize. It's a good prize.
It's getting it for free would be a nice touch. So all attendees who watch will see how to enter. We will be providing the link starting with next week's show. And you can find the details. It's very easy to enter. And then a week later, we will announce the winner after we've had all the submissions come through. So, in other words, tune in next week, which will be a special episode on special effects. And you also have a chance to win a 1-year subscription to the WeVideo business plan.
Yeah, tune in. It's going to be a great episode, lots of fun. And we're happy we've made it to 50. I don't think originally this is what we planned, but with the circumstances, the live video has certainly let us provide you guys with some sort of instant answering of questions and hopefully helps you guys with your editing process. So thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you guys next week.
Cool. Anything else to add, Tyler?
That's it.
Well, sweet. Thanks for everyone who joined us today, and please tune in next week. It's an episode you don't want to miss. We've been preparing for this for quite some time now. You're going to want to be part of it. So thanks again. We'll see you all next week. Happy creating.
See you guys.